Hi everyone. Welcome back to Woo Can Cook. My name is Wesley, and this is a show where we are slowly cooking our way through all of the food from my childhood. Today we're diving back into our series dedicated to deconstructing Chinese American classics with a shot at the PF Chang's Singapore black pepper chicken. Okay, so for those new to this series, we have actually done a number of Chinese American classics already, including a shot at the Mongolian Beef from PF Chang's not too long ago. What we'll be doing today is deconstructing what makes these dishes tick and then identify what are the Americanized aspects going on and try and reconstruct this dish through the lens of more traditional wok cooking. Now, fortunately for us, PF Chang's has actually published this recipe for us to take a look at, and it is honestly pretty bland looking, mostly a combination of oyster sauce, soy sauce, and rice vinegar. So I'm feeling pretty confident that we can do decently better. So for our version today, we're gonna stay fairly true to the original with the inclusion of some flash cooked sweet white onion, green bell pepper, and red Fresno peppers. But then we'll be deviating a bit by tossing that in a bright umami forward dark soy sauce base, and finally rounding all of that out with what I think is the most iconic part about this dish, which is some steamed chicken for the most tender, aromatic, lacy, and juicy bits of chicken that you will ever create. Okay, so let's get into it.
Raindrops on roses, whiskers on kittens, cream-colored ponies and crisp apple strudels, doorbells and sleigh bells and schnitzel with noodles, wild geese that fly with the moon on their wings. These are a few of my favorite things.
Okay, kicking things off here first, as with many of our recipes, is 4 cloves of crushed and minced garlic, followed by 1 inch or about 1 tablespoon of finely minced ginger. As we often do, that garlic will be included as an aromatic during our wok fry. The ginger, however, will be going into our chicken marinade today instead as a sort of homage to a Chinese steamed ginger chicken for a super classic and traditional touch. Then next are my veggies. First up is yet another appearance of these gross bitter things known as green bell peppers. Anything for accuracy as always. I'm removing the membranes of my bell pepper here to make sure that they are at least a little bit less bitter, and then giving these a large dice. Then next is my sweet white onion, which we're similarly large dicing with the root still on for a consistent chop, followed by my red Fresno peppers. We're slicing these things up whole for presentation today, which means that you're gonna wanna make sure that your knife is real sharp, or else you're gonna have a lot of trouble cutting through that waxy outer skin like this. Now, these things are natively grown here in California, as the name implies, so they're pretty easy to locate for me, and I also think that the contrast of that red on green is a really iconic part of this dish's presentation. If you can't find them though, they're relatively mild in heat, so a jalapeno or even a serrano pepper would work just fine as well. Finally, rounding this all out is my cilantro, which I'm removing from their stems using this sweet fork trick that I just learned about. Revel in the extra 5 minutes of your life that you just saved, and we're moving on to our chicken next. Alright, so once again, the PF Chang's official published recipe goes with a boiled chicken breast here, even though their menu clearly indicates that it should be steamed. I'm guessing to make this a little bit easier for folks at home. I actually thought that the steamed chicken element felt really traditional and authentic to me though, because it reminds me of a dish that my mom loves, which is a Cantonese steamed ginger chicken, where the ginger is steamed with the chicken to impart some lovely aromatic qualities. So we're large dicing some chicken thigh here into 1/2-inch pieces and then placing this into a heat-proof bowl. Very important. It must be heat-proof or you're gonna break your mom's nice bowls, Wesley. Then for our marinade, I'm starting off with 4 tablespoons of soy sauce and 1 tablespoon of sesame oil, followed by a single tablespoon of oyster sauce for some rich fishy umami, and a tablespoon of Shaoxing wine for some brightness. Then, as promised, here's my ginger going into our marinade, followed by a healthy amount of fresh cracked black pepper. It is in the name after all. And rounding this all out is a tablespoon of cornstarch. This is gonna tighten up our marinade a bit and will also slow down the exterior cook of our chicken quite a bit to help us get a nice tender and lacy piece of chicken out of our steam. Next up is our sauce here, which I'm riffing pretty wildly from the written recipe at this point. First up is 4 tablespoons of soy sauce and 2 tablespoons of rice vinegar as in the original recipe. But then we're gonna expand a little bit on our rich umami and malted sweetness with a tablespoon each of dark soy sauce and brown sugar. Finally, I'm setting this all aside and we're heading over to the stove to get started on our chicken next. Okay, over on the stove, what we need here is about 4 cups of water in our tallest possible pot so that we can place our bowl on top of a steam basket and also cover the pot. So not like this wok and not like this pot either. Once we've got the right pot set up though, I'm bringing our water to a boil, placing my chicken on top of a steam basket, or you can just stack it on top of another upside down heat-proof bowl too if you want. Then I'm covering this up and letting it steam for 10 minutes until we have some wonderfully juicy, tender pieces of chicken. Next, I'm switching back to my wok here, heating it up as hot as possible, adding 4 tablespoons of peanut oil, and as always, long yao for that nice non-stick surface. Then going in first here is my garlic, which I'm blooming until fragrant for about 10 seconds, followed by my green bell peppers and red Fresnos. We're giving these about 1 to 2 minutes head start to cook off a bit of their rawness since they are a bit more durable than our other veggies. And then next up, I'm adding my onions for a quick 1-minute toss in the wok, followed by my chicken and my sauce element, which I'm adding a few tablespoons at a time and stopping to taste. As always, with anything containing dark soy sauce, we're being very careful not to over-season here. Remember that this stuff is very concentrated, so it can get away from you pretty easily. Finally, I'm removing this all from heat, finishing with a bit of cracked black pepper and our cilantro, and we're ready to eat. Okay, so as many folks know, stir fries like this fall right into my comfort zone for me. So if you're like me and feel pretty comfortable with Chinese style wok fries, this one should feel pretty familiar for the most part. Our steamed chicken came out perfectly tender and juicy from that really gentle cook, while also wonderfully fragrant and aromatic from the inclusion of our ginger in the marinade as well. For what it's worth, I also think that this beats the pants off of any boiled chicken approach that I have ever tried, while also still very approachable and doable as well, so choose for yourselves accordingly. Then our super tender chicken pairs well with our crispy flash-cooked veggies for a nice contrast in texture. And finally, our dark soy sauce, oyster sauce, and brown sugar helps to create a wonderfully rich umami that I think does a lot more for us than our original PF Chang's recipe does. If you're looking for a fun new way of approaching a chicken stir fry, this is a cool one to take a shot at. Okay, so that's it everyone. I hope you enjoyed this and I hope you give this one a shot. Like I mentioned earlier, this one is part of a larger series that we've been doing that's dedicated to reproducing Americanized Chinese food through the lens of more traditional wok cooking. We've done a bunch of the dishes from PF Chang's and Panda Express, so definitely check that series out next if you haven't yet, because there's a lot of these. We'll also be cooking through this one live next Tuesday at 6:30 PST right here on the YouTube channel, so tune in then and cook along with me if you want. Lastly, for the Bay Area locals, the Wu Can Cook Fried Rice pop-up is making its Oakland debut at Degrees Plato this Sunday on Halloween, so come by and say hi then if you can. More about that at wucancook.com/eats. As always, like, comment, subscribe, share, be nice humans, and I'll see you soon.
These are a few of my favorites.